Hi, I'm Jelena, and I'm a technical artist currently studying at West DAE in Belgium. And I want to explain you a bit about the recent project I finished. This one on the left, it's called FileFlow, and it's basically a group of 3 scripts that each have their own purpose. But as you can see, it's connecting Blender to Unity basically in one smooth pipeline with a directory organizer in between. But before I get into the tools themselves, I'll give you some more context on why I made these scripts. So it was actually during this project, Just Roll With It, that I thought of creating tools like this. Because for the game project course at school, we had to create one full level of a game in small teams. And we had to create this from the ground up, so from the idea to the final product. And that was kind of the first time for me that I worked in a team on a game project, and it made me realize how much work it is to keep a project organized. At the start, we created a technical document, of course, with our naming conventions and how we would structure the entirety of the project. But I noticed that it didn't last long before those conventions weren't always being followed anymore, and I found myself sometimes guilty of this too. But that's why I created a batch exporter for Blender, then a general directory organizing application, and a batch importer for Unity. And the handy thing is that those 3 tools all work with one configuration file, so you can reuse it in each tool. And in that file, all the rules get defined on how everything should be named and what assets belong in which folders, for example. So it's kind of the technical document, but then written in a way that can be processed with code, which is handy because then you can automate a bunch of things. But I'll go over each script and explain you what it does. Okay, so first up we have the Blender batch exporter. This is what the UI looks like. I'll expand it a bit more so everything is visible. But let's say you've modeled these plant meshes and you want to export them all in one go. That way, that's what this tool makes possible. And you can first choose where you want the pivot points to be, because if you would export them like this, it would not stand on the world origin and your pivot would be off and it would be a mess to work with. But so you can choose if they're in the bottom center or in the center of the mesh. I find bottom center the handiest for foliage like this. So I'll keep it like this. You can choose to triangulate or not, and then I have this quick validation section where you can do some quick last minute checks. Now I do want to mention for these meshes, since they don't have a backside, if I turn it on, yeah, there you go. They'll be marked as non-manifolds and as inverted normal, so I won't be running those checks right now. But I can show you the check for the size aspect. And this takes into account if there are any really big or really small meshes. So let's say I'll scale this one down by a lot, and then it could be a size issue or a scaling issue that you're not noticing. And you try to export, then it'll say that there are outlier meshes found, and you can look at them and see which one is acting up. But for now, I'll just show it like this without those checks. And then here you have to put in the configuration file because it will check what prefixes it has to save with and suffixes, and then the folder you want to export to. But once you press export, it says mesh is exported successfully, and then you can see that they all exported nicely. So that's what this first tool does. So it speeds up your workflow and it makes sure that you have the right naming, of course. Okay, so next up is the directory scanner application that I made. So this is just a UI I made with PySide 6's Qt framework, and it's pure Python on the backend. And so yeah, it's the same principle. You enter the directory you want to scan or look for issues in, and then the configuration file, and then you just press scan, and it will show you the issues that were found. If you want an even quicker overview, you can generate reports, and that will generate an HTML file actually. So you can see this is a local file that just got opened on my browser. And it shows you how many files were scanned, issues found, issues already solved maybe, where the most issues occur, and by type also, and then you get the full list. But the nice thing about this UI is that you get options to fix the issues immediately. So for example, in this case, arrow sign doesn't have the correct prefix because it should have one of these. And since it's probably a static mesh, I'll give you the static mesh prefix by using this rename button and then renaming with the correct prefix, of course. If I do it with the wrong one, it will also prompt me again to do it with a correct one. So there we go. And it's the same with move issues. So for those, you can use a move button if they're in the wrong folder location. For example, the skeletal mesh for the pillbug should be in the mesh's skeletal folder. And then you can just press move and it will ask you, are you sure you want to move this? Then you can press yes. And yeah, it's the same for most issues. Issues like image size, you can't immediately fix with the tool, but then you can just open them in Photoshop by opening them in Explorer, and then you can just, open them quickly, and then for now they can be ignored. I also made sure that you can delete files, but it's dangerous, of course, so there's also a failsafe, so an extra confirm you have to do before those get deleted. But yeah, that's most of this tool. Okay, then lastly we have the Unity batch importer, which you can open by going to Window and then UI Toolkit and then batch importer. Now this in itself is a very simple tool, but I specifically made it that way because I wanted to learn some C# in the process, because before I only knew Python, so this was my introduction to the language, hence why it's pretty simple. But I'm glad I made it anyways. But so you start by filling in the configuration file, because it needs this for the prefixes, the suffixes, the folder locations, like the usual. And then here it makes a list of the suffixes found for the textures, so you can set what settings need to be set on a certain type of texture. So for example, metalness will be grayscale, a normal will be normal, and then roughness will be grayscale as well. And then we can import files. And I made a folder for it here. So you can see we have meshes and textures at the same time, and we can import them all at once. And then it will read in the configuration file in what folder it should save them. So now it saved them in the art assets folder, because I specified it here. The import base path was set to assets and then art assets. And then the meshes and textures got separated as well, because this is also specified in the configuration file. And then for the textures, the import settings will be adjusted here. So for the base color, it just stayed to default and the sRGB is turned on. But for a normal map, it got changed to normal map, and then it never has sRGB anyways. And for the roughness, it also has a default texture type, but then no sRGB activated. And the meshes should also have been imported correctly. So yeah, that was it for this tool as well. Alright, so this is the end of my demonstration video for the FileFlow project. If you want to know more about it, you can read through my presentation on ArtStation as well, because I broke it down there in quite some detail, if you would be interested. You can always just reach out to me on LinkedIn as well. You can just find me on there as Jelena Rombout. But otherwise, I thank you for watching.